Rum says that there are three types of players: those that are straight out deceitful, those that are cunning and manipulative, and those that are just straight out honest. I would like to think that I can be a little bit of all of those three, possibly at the same time. This is the fifth fish game, and we're about maybe a third of the way through. We've got to the end of the first week with only one player eliminated, although another one is about to be. So, as this one started, I didn't much like the look of this setup, although I only had three neighbours. So I decided on a combination of being on the front foot and on the back foot. Although all my forces were pointing towards brown, and that looked like a bit of a battle there, I told him that I'd really rather not fight him, and then didn't send all my forces somewhere else. I then told purple that I really wanted sea bass, even though it was closer to him, and that I'd be willing to go all out to take it. He then told me that he wasn't particularly bothered, and ended up doing a gift arrangement so that I'd get that with no casualties. And then there was this very nice selection of factories to my south that I thought, well, they're going to come in particularly handy and or violently. So I boldly bagged Wilkes and Pham and said that Teal could have Goss, and Teal seemed reasonably happy with this arrangement. Look, there's even more factories that become visible once we've got to the first expansion, so we hurry up and expand. And purple gets solo, which I expected him to. So my first high was a smuggler, which is always a good start in domination, and I was just using it to centralise all my forces and wait for somebody to do something stupid. I'm a bit concerned about Brown, but he appears to have believed me when I said that I really don't want to attack him, and he doesn't want to take on the smuggler. And I did manage to get a force up to Hake, where I was slightly closest, and Olive isn't contesting that, so that's nice. I've noticed that Teal has a completely offensive setup with a hypnotist and an infiltrator, so presumably he's going to turn that into a king straight away and then go and invade people. I ask Orange Yellow, who can also see that, if we see him as a threat and would like to gang up on him before he gets powerful. Orange isn't particularly worried, so plan B is to ask Teal whether he wants to be a long-term ally, because obviously if I gear up to be a tycoon and Teal gears up for kings, then I could send him troops and his troops would be more powerful. However, he's sort of generally happy with this arrangement. Over on this side, purple and I have basically got a DMZ going on. Purple's telling me that beige is doing weird things to the south, and I can now see what's going on, that beige is launching a nice invasion and continues invading up to Solo, which purple had sort of offered to me in the sense that he'd rather I had it than beige had it. Beige had previously asked me what my status was with purple, and I just said sort of neutral. However, the fact that beige is extending himself right up to where I've got a zone of influence, and the fact that purple tells me he has a princess sentry on the way, and I hate princess sentries. So that basically turns me to try and take on beige as my first enemy. So of course beige sensibly runs away. My next hires by this time have been a infiltrator, because really there was nothing else on, and next is a hypnotist, which I figure is always handy in domination, just because if you're going to capture people, then you can capture them properly. So I basically stacks in at solo, and down here at Arty, purple has done the completely nasty trick of upgrading to a king, which gives you a bit of a window where your shield's still up. So that's enabled him to catch Beige's super sub. Now, if only I could get there before the lieutenant rescues those specialists. Well, that was quite easy to do because all purple needs to do is release them. The closest base was Oaktown, and my reinforcements get there before that does, with in fact the hypnotist. So that's an instant plus 3 specialists and an instant Princess Sentry, which is a bit rude. Meanwhile, over here, Teal hasn't really been, I would say, being that tactically sound. You can see he's been sending ships on very long distances, long attacks on red, and Olive has sent in a helmsman that's backed up by a general and is going to therefore tear up all of Teal's defences. So I'm really not particularly interested in this alliance idea with Teal anymore, mainly because he's tactically not that great. So I've got a bit of a Bob Itchway bet. I'd early asked him if I could send him a gift where would he want it, because I was sort of producing too many drillers, and as you can see at the moment I'm flashing, I'm capped out. So he said send them to Barhart, which I thought made no sense. So I sent all that was available near there. Quite by coincidence, Olive had just enough drillers at Magellan to go to knock through the shields at Barhart if neither of them were gifts. At some point, Dill notices this and says, "Oi, gift your sub." He eventually recruits a lieutenant, which will mean that we can't actually assassinate him. But by doing that, we've spooked him enough to pull his smuggler back there and hire a lieutenant, which is a good use of a gift that I was going to give him anyway. So then I do gift it, and Olive loses that. And I claim that as a victory for him, because obviously he's fighting Olive, and I've got Olive to waste 19 troops. So I then send another gift sub down here to help him, and Teal does an unimaginably daft thing of sending the smuggler down there. Now, of course, my gift was deliberately just big enough to take the base, even for a short time, which gives me enough time to smuggle in reinforcements, and my hypnotist is on the way in, and I have another 2 specialists. So I'm now 5 specialists to the good, and 2 players extremely upset. So from here on, it's combine with Olive to roll back Teal, which doesn't really cause too many problems. What else has been happening? We had Beige on the back foot, but Olive was basically dumping troops on him because Olive was too close to his drill cap as well. Brown is engaged in a little war with Orange, and we're leaving each other alone, although I was just accumulating troops on the border just as a deterrent. And Purple was kind of getting squeezed by Teal and Red, so he was very much appreciative of the fact that I was just giving him troops, and he's allowed me to take some of his bases because I've got a faster production rate, because I've been able to steal a smuggler, which I turned into an extra tycoon, and I stole a lieutenant, which I've turned into a general. So I'm pretty much about almost a week ahead in terms of specialist hires, and I've put together a navigator, helmsman, infiltrator, which is great for sort of knocking through pretty much anything. So as we were trying to tidy up Teal, there was a bit of a standoff between me and Olive, because Olive is number one and I'm just behind him in terms of troop numbers. And I was thinking, wouldn't it be great to catch that king? I was actually probably planning on giving it to Purple. That made Olive a bit upset. So after a bit of negotiations, I decided to, no, all right, I'll just let the king crash into Magellan. Except of course the king had enough with it to take Magellan. So this has enabled Teal's queen to get away briefly. So he's currently fighting a rearguard action with saboteurs, but the problem with saboteurs is that they're not much good against a helmsman navigator. So very, very shortly that'll be curtains for Teal as well. And now we have a bit of a cold war of 200 odd drillers each staring at each other between me and Olive. We are still on moderately good terms, and the question is who to attack next. So I've probably missed out some strategizing and double crossing during this time. Red is currently trying to get me to be friends and backstab Purple. Brown lost his fight to the death with Orange and has resigned when he was about to lose his queen. So I'm now using that border store to try and nick some more factories. And you know, in the long term, hopefully I can stay friendly with Olive and we can just clean up. But we will see what the next week holds.